Commander Vex 9 of the Galactic Coalition Navy adjusted his 6 eyes with visible irritation. The holographic display in front of him showed a pathetic sight. One small blue planet, spinning lazily in the void, completely defenseless. No orbital stations. No patrol fleets. No warning beacons. Nothing. "This is almost embarrassing," he muttered to his second in command. Officer Zoc, the humans don't even have a proper space navy. What kind of species colonizes 3-star systems without building adequate defenses? Zoc's tentacles twitched with amusement. "Perhaps they're too busy fighting amongst themselves, sir. Our intelligence reports suggest they still wage wars over resources and territorial disputes on their homeworld." "Primitive," Vex 9 snorted. "Absolutely primitive. The Council was right to classify them as a Class 2 civilization. Barely space-worthy." The bridge of the Coalition dreadnought Stellar Dominance hummed with quiet efficiency. 2,000 crew members from 12 different species worked in perfect harmony. Their technology centuries ahead of anything these so-called humans could comprehend. The ship itself was 3 kilometers long, bristling with plasma cannons and quantum torpedoes that could crack a moon in half. "Sir," Communications Officer Threx announced, her crystalline voice cutting through the ambient noise, "we're receiving a transmission from the human settlement on Kepler 442 billion. "Put it through," Vex 9 commanded, settling into his command chair. "This should be amusing." The main screen flickered to life, revealing a middle-aged human male with graying hair and worried eyes. He wore some sort of military uniform, though it looked laughably outdated compared to Coalition standards. "This is Admiral Marcus Kane of the Terran Colonial Defense Force," the human said, his voice steady despite the obvious fear in his eyes. "We've detected your fleet approaching our system. What are your intentions?" Vex 9 couldn't help but laugh, a sound like grinding metal that echoed through the bridge. "Terran Colonial Defense Force? How delightfully optimistic. Tell me, Admiral Kane, where exactly is this defense force of yours? I see no ships, no stations, no weapons platforms. Did you perhaps forget to build them?" Kane's jaw tightened. "We have defensive capabilities. I strongly advise you to reconsider any hostile actions." "Oh, I'm sure you do," Vex 9 replied, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Let me guess, missile silos on the planet's surface? Perhaps some orbital satellites with primitive nuclear warheads? How terrifying." Officer Zoc leaned closer to his commander. "Sir, should we proceed with the standard invasion protocol?" In a moment, Vex 9 waved him off, clearly enjoying himself. "I want to hear more about these mysterious defensive capabilities. Please, Admiral Kane, enlighten us. What exactly do you plan to do against a fleet of 50 Coalition warships?" Kane was quiet for a long moment, and Vex 9 could practically smell the human's desperation through the communication link. Finally, Kane spoke again, his voice barely above a whisper. "We'll do what we have to do." "How ominous," Vex 9 chuckled. "Very well, Admiral. You have exactly 1 standard hour to evacuate your military personnel and surrender the colony. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force. I trust that's clear enough for your primitive understanding?" The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in satisfied silence. "Begin standard sweep and secure operations," Vex 9 ordered. "Deploy fighters to patrol the outer system perimeter. I want a full tactical assessment within 30 minutes. "Sir," Tactical Officer Grix reported, his 4 arms dancing across his control panels. "Preliminary scans show no significant military installations on any of the 3 colonized worlds. Population centers appear to be primarily civilian." "Exactly as expected," Vex 9 nodded. "The humans are bluffing. They have nothing." 20 minutes later, Navigation Officer Yult's voice carried a note of confusion. "Commander, I'm detecting some unusual readings from the asteroid belt." "Define unusual," Vex 9 demanded, though he remained relaxed in his chair. "Well, sir, there appear to be several large metallic objects hidden among the asteroids. They're very well camouflaged. I almost missed them entirely. Vex 9's confidence wavered slightly. Mining stations? Possibly, sir. But the energy signatures are odd. They don't match any known mining equipment in our databases. Send a patrol to investigate, Vex 9 ordered. 3 fighters should be sufficient. The bridge fell into tense silence as they waited for the patrol's report. Vex 9 drummed his claws against his armrest, a habit he'd developed during his 100-year military career. Something about this felt wrong, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. Patrol leader next to Stellar Dominance. Came the crackling transmission. We've reached the first metallic object. It's by the 7 moons. It's massive. This thing is at least 2 kilometers long. A space station? Vex 9 asked, sitting up straighter. Negative, sir. It's definitely a ship. And, sir, there are dozens of them. They're all powered down, running silent, but the hull designs are unlike anything in our databases. A cold chill ran down Vex 9's spine. Return to the fleet immediately. Sir, I'm detecting movement from the objects. They're powering up. All of them. The transmission dissolved into static. Vex 9 shot to his feet. Battle stations, all ships to combat readiness. Alarms began blaring throughout the Coalition fleet as 50 warships scrambled to defensive positions. On the main display, new contacts began appearing one by one. First 10, then 20, then 50, then 100. Then, sir, sensor operator Keld's voice was barely audible above the chaos. I count 147 ships emerging from the asteroid field. They're all broadcasting the same identification. Terran Star Navy. Impossible. Vex 9 whispered. Our intelligence report stated clearly that humans had no significant space military assets. Sir, Communications Officer Threx interrupted. We're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Put it through. Admiral Kane appeared on screen again. But this time he was wearing a different uniform. This one was black and silver, with insignia that spoke of deep space operations and serious military authority. His expression had changed too. Gone was the worried colonial administrator. In his place stood a warrior. Commander Vex 9 of the Coalition Navy, Kane began, his voice now carrying the weight of absolute confidence. I believe you were expecting a primitive defense force. Allow me to introduce you to the Terran Star Navy's 3rd Fleet. The display behind Kane showed a tactical overview that made Vex 9's blood freeze. The human ships were not only numerous, they were massive. Many were larger than Coalition dreadnoughts, bristling with weapons systems that didn't match any known technology. You see, Kane continued conversationally, we've been expecting visitors like you for quite some time. The galaxy is full of species who think they can simply take what they want from those they perceive as weak. We decided it might be wise to prepare for such encounters. Your intelligence reports were incomplete. Admiral Kane smiled. And it wasn't a pleasant expression. We've been operating a distributed defense network for the past 15 years. What you saw as defenseless colonies were actually heavily fortified positions with hidden fleet assets. Vex 9 found his voice. This is impossible. Our scouts reported no major industrial capacity, no shipyards, no military infrastructure. Oh, we have plenty of industrial capacity, Kane laughed. We just keep it where visitors like you can't see it. Did you really think a species capable of faster-than-light travel wouldn't think to hide their military assets? On the tactical display, the human ships were moving into what was unmistakably an attack formation. They moved with precision that spoke of extensive training and combat experience. Now then, Kane continued, you mentioned something about overwhelming force. I'm curious to see what that looks like compared to what we call overwhelming force. Officer Zoc leaned close to Vex 9's ear. Sir, we should consider tactical withdrawal. We're outnumbered nearly 3 to 1. Retreat. Vex 9 snarled. From primitive humans? Never. He turned to his weapons officer. All ships prepare to engage. Target their lead vessels. Sir, Tactical Officer Grix interrupted urgently. I'm detecting massive energy buildups from the human ships. Their weapons systems are, sir. The power readings are off the charts. Impossible. Vex 9 muttered. But his confidence was cracking. Admiral Kane's image on the screen smiled wider. Commander, you're about to learn something very important about humanity. We don't build weapons to match our enemies. We build weapons to utterly annihilate them. The first salvo from the Terran Star Navy lit up space like a newborn star. Vex 9 watched in horror as beams of coherent energy, each one brighter than a ship's main reactor, lanced out from the human fleet. The Coalition ship Void Hunter, a heavy cruiser with shields that could deflect asteroid impacts, simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, the next it was expanding debris, evasive maneuvers. Vex 9 screamed, returned fire. The Coalition fleet opened up with everything they had: plasma bolts, quantum torpedoes, and particle beams streaked toward the human ships. The results were disappointing. The human vessels absorbed the impacts with apparent ease, their shields barely flickering. "Sir," Officer Zoc reported, his voice hollow. "Direct hits on 12 human vessels, no damage detected." Another volley from the Terran fleet eliminated 3 more Coalition ships. "How is this possible?" Vex 9 demanded. "These are humans. They're supposed to be primitives." Admiral Kane's transmission came through again, his voice now carrying an edge of steel. "Commander Vex 9, this is your final warning. Surrender now, and your crews will be treated according to the Galactic Conventions of War. Continue this attack, and we will demonstrate why the Terran Star Navy has never lost an engagement." Vex 9 looked around his bridge. Half his fleet was already gone or disabled. His crew members, representatives of the most advanced military force in the galaxy, were staring at their instruments in disbelief. "Never lost an engagement?" he whispered. Kane nodded grimly. "The Third Fleet has fought pirates, raiders, and 3 separate invasion attempts over the past decade. We've never lost a single ship in combat, we've never retreated from a battle, and we've never shown mercy to those who threaten human colonies." The tactical display showed the remaining Coalition ships being systematically destroyed or disabled. It wasn't even a battle anymore. It was an execution. "Sir," Communications Officer Threx announced quietly, "the other fleet commanders are requesting permission to surrender." Vex 9 stared at the display, watching his career and his pride being vaporized along with his ships. How had this happened? How had the mighty Galactic Coalition Navy been so completely outmaneuvered by a species they'd classified as barely space-worthy? "Commander," Admiral Kane's voice cut through his thoughts, "your time is up. What's your decision?" Vex 9's pride finally crumbled under the weight of absolute defeat. With trembling claws, he reached for the communications panel. "This is Commander Vex 9 to all Coalition vessels." His voice cracked like breaking glass. "Cease fire. Stand down all weapons. We surrender." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of life support systems. 50 of the galaxy's most advanced warships, reduced to 23 smoking hulks and debris fields in less than 10 minutes. The Coalition's reputation as an unstoppable military force had just evaporated like morning mist. Admiral Kane's expression softened slightly, though his eyes remained watchful. "Wise choice, Commander. Please transmit your crew manifests and prepare to be boarded for inspection. Any attempt at deception or sabotage will result in immediate destruction." "Understood," Vex 9 replied, his voice barely above a whisper. As Coalition ships began powering down their remaining weapons, Officer Zoc approached his commander with obvious confusion. "Sir, I don't understand. How did our intelligence networks miss something this significant? A hidden fleet of this magnitude should have been impossible to conceal." Vex 9 stared at the tactical display, watching human ships take protective positions around the surviving Coalition vessels. "Because we underestimated them, Zoc. We saw what we expected to see, not what was actually there." The boarding process began an hour later. Human Marines, dressed in sleek powered armor that put Coalition military gear to shame, moved through the stellar dominance with professional efficiency. They were polite but firm, confiscating weapons and securing critical systems without unnecessary brutality. Captain Elena Vasquez, the boarding party commander, approached Vex 9 on the bridge. She was shorter than most Coalition species, but her presence filled the room like a gathering storm. "Commander Vex 9, she said, her voice carrying the same confident authority as Admiral Kane. "You're being transferred to the flagship Syracuse for debriefing. Your crew will remain aboard this vessel under guard." "The Syracuse?" Vex 9 asked, recognizing the name from the tactical displays. "Admiral Kane's command ship," Vasquez explained. 5 kilometers long. Crew of 8,000. She's what we call a Titan-class dreadnought. 5 kilometers. Vex 9's own flagship was barely 3 kilometers, and he'd considered it one of the largest ships in the known galaxy. The shuttle ride to the Syracuse gave Vex 9 his first close look at human naval architecture. The ship was a work of art and terror combined, its hull covered in sensor arrays and weapon systems that defied easy classification. Launch bays along its flanks disgorged squadrons of fighters that moved with the grace of natural predators. "Impressive, isn't she?" Captain Vasquez observed, noticing his stare. "The Syracuse is our newest design. Took 5 years to build in the hidden shipyards of the Tau Ceti system." "Hidden shipyards," Vex 9 repeated numbly. 7 major construction facilities scattered across 4 star systems. Vasquez continued conversationally. "We've been building ships faster than we can crew them for the past decade. Turns out, having your species constantly threatened by various galactic powers is excellent motivation for military expansion." The shuttle docked with the Syracuse's main bay, and Vex 9 found himself walking through corridors that stretched beyond his line of sight. The scale was overwhelming. Thousands of humans moved through the ship with purpose and precision, their uniforms bearing insignia from dozens of different specialties. Admiral Kane waited in his ready room, a spacious chamber with viewports that offered a spectacular view of the human fleet. The ships had arranged themselves in a defensive formation that spoke of extensive tactical doctrine and combat experience. "Please, sit." Kane gestured to a chair, obviously designed for non-human physiology. "Can I offer you anything?" "Water, perhaps? I understand most oxygen-breathing species can process our standard H2O." Vex 9 accepted the offer, more out of shock than thirst. The water was clean and cold, better than anything he'd tasted on his own ship. "You have questions?" Kane observed, settling behind his desk. "I can see them in your expression." "Please, ask away." "How?" Vex 9 managed. "How did you build all of this without anyone knowing?" Kane smiled, but it was a sad expression. "The same way any species survives in a hostile galaxy, Commander. We learn to hide our strengths and advertise our weaknesses. For 15 years, we've maintained the fiction that humanity is a barely space-capable species with primitive technology and no unified military. But why? What was the purpose of such deception?" "Time," Kane replied simply. "We needed time to build, to train, to prepare. Every year the galaxy thought we were harmless was another year we could strengthen our defenses and expand our capabilities." A new voice entered the conversation as a woman in a different uniform approached the desk. She was older than Kane, with silver hair and eyes that seemed to catalog everything they saw. "Admiral Kane, the council representatives are requesting immediate communication," she reported. Kane nodded. "Commander Vex 9, allow me to introduce Fleet Admiral Sarah Okafor, Supreme Commander of Terran Naval Operations. She's the architect of our current strategic position." Vex 9's remaining eyes widened. "Supreme Commander." This human woman outranked everyone he'd ever met in Coalition space. "Admiral Okafor," he said, attempting a respectful bow despite his restraints. "Commander," she replied with a slight nod. "I trust Admiral Kane has been informative about our current situation?" Yes, Admiral. Though I confess I'm still struggling to comprehend the scope of what you've accomplished." Admiral Okafor moved to the viewport, gazing out at the assembled fleet. "What we've accomplished, Commander, is survival. When humanity first encountered the galactic community, we discovered a disturbing pattern. Species that revealed their full military capabilities too early often found themselves conquered or forcibly integrated into larger power structures. So you chose to appear weak," Vex 9 realized. "We chose to appear manageable," she corrected. "There's a difference." Weak species get enslaved or eliminated. Manageable species get ignored until they become inconvenient. Admiral Kane activated a holographic display that showed a map of local space. Red markers indicated coalition territory, while blue showed human-controlled systems. What your intelligence services didn't realize, Kane explained, is that we've been expanding far more aggressively than anyone suspected. Those 3 colonized worlds you observed, they're just the tip of the iceberg. We currently maintain significant populations in 17 star systems. 17 systems. The Coalition had classified humanity as controlling 3. Our total population is approaching 8 billion individuals, Admiral Okafor added casually. Our industrial capacity rivals that of any major galactic power, and our military, well, you've seen what our military can accomplish. But the reports, Vex 9 protested weakly. Our scouts, our intelligence networks. How did you fool them all? Simple misdirection. Kane shrugged. We showed your scouts exactly what we wanted them to see. Civilian settlements with minimal defenses. Outdated technology. Limited space traffic. Meanwhile, our real military assets remained hidden in systems your people never thought to properly investigate. Admiral Okafor turned from the viewport with an expression of grim satisfaction. Commander, I have a confession to make. Your fleet wasn't the first Coalition force to attempt an invasion of human space. Vex 9 felt ice forming in his stomach. What do you mean? 3 years ago, a Coalition task force under Admiral Crix 12 attempted to claim the mining rights to our Kepler 186 system. They brought 30 ships and demanded immediate surrender. What happened to them? Nothing, Kane replied with dark humor. They're still there, actually. We converted their ships into orbital defense platforms after the crews decided they preferred human hospitality to Coalition justice. The implications hit Vex 9 like a physical blow. You've been capturing Coalition forces for years, converting. Admiral Okafor corrected. The crews weren't prisoners, Commander. They were refugees. It seems Coalition justice is rather harsh when it comes to military failures. Kane activated another display showing what appeared to be a thriving space station. The converted crews helped us understand Coalition technology, tactics, and strategic thinking. Very educational. Treason, Vex 9 whispered. Survival, Admiral Okafor countered firmly. When faced with execution for failure or cooperation with a species that treats prisoners with dignity, most people make the practical choice. A communication alert chimed, and Captain Vasquez appeared on the display. Admiral, we have incoming transmissions from Coalition High Command. They're demanding immediate status reports from all task force commanders. Kane and Okafor exchanged meaningful glances. Time for the next phase. Admiral Okafor decided. Commander Vex 9, you have a choice to make. What kind of choice? You can return to Coalition space and report your failure, Kane explained. Face whatever punishment awaits commanders who lose entire fleets to supposedly primitive species. Or you can help us end this cycle of aggression permanently, Admiral Okafor finished. The Coalition has been expanding through intimidation and conquest for centuries. Species across the galaxy live in fear of Coalition fleets arriving to demand submission. You want me to betray my own people? We want you to help us create a galaxy where strength doesn't automatically grant the right to dominate others, Kane replied. The Coalition's expansion ends here, Commander. The question is whether it ends through negotiation or through force. Vex 9 looked between the 2 human admirals, seeing something in their expressions that chilled him more than their superior firepower. They weren't just confident in their military supremacy, they were absolutely certain of their cause. What exactly are you proposing? Admiral Okafor smiled, and for the first time since his capture, Vex 9 saw genuine warmth in a human expression. We're proposing peace, Commander. Real peace, the kind where species cooperate instead of conquer, where strength is used to protect rather than subjugate. The Coalition will never accept such terms. Then the Coalition will discover why the Terran Star Navy has never lost an engagement, Kane replied matter-of-factly. Our 3rd fleet was just the beginning, Commander. We have 12 more fleets positioned throughout human space, and our shipyards are producing new vessels every month. 13 fleets. Vex 9's mind reeled at the implications. The galaxy is changing, Commander, Admiral Okafor continued. The age of easy conquest is ending. Macy, humanity will see to that. As if summoned by her words, the communication system activated with an incoming transmission. The display showed Grand Admiral Thix Prime of the Coalition High Command, his expression thunderous with rage. Commander Vex 9, report your status immediately. Our monitoring stations have detected weapons fire in your operational area. Vex 9 looked at the human admirals, seeing his future reflected in their confident faces. Behind them, through the viewport, human ships maintained their vigilant patrol patterns, strong, disciplined, and utterly committed to their cause. Grand Admiral, Vex 9 said slowly, his voice carrying new resolve, I believe it's time the Coalition learned about humanity's actual capabilities. The humans smiled as Vex 9 began his report, knowing that the galaxy would never be the same. The age of human space power had officially begun, and with it, a new chapter in galactic history where the strong would finally be challenged to protect instead of prey upon the weak. The great miscalculation was complete. Now came the far more interesting task of building something better from its aftermath.